Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist and the Magical Mystery Tour called Life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is action-adventure novelist James Johnson. James lives in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and when he is not writing novels, he pursues relaxation as a retired federal government worker, and he loves to play golf. Tonight, we will be paying tribute to James's writing career. James, welcome to the show. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here. I'd like to start off by asking you, would you please tell our listeners about your latest book, The Adventures of Dooley Dooley?
Well, Dooley Dooley is a children's book, and it's part of a series. Book one is about Dooley Dooley having an accident and developing a strange, unique gift. And he uses this gift to sort of help people and also expose some of the bad that's going on in people. So he has a gift, and he uses that gift throughout the book, throughout the series.
Now, does he have if he's trying to foil bad people, does he have like an adult friend who helps him in that quest, Mr. Johnson?
Well, he has people that he can go to help. Yes. The answer is yes. He would have people that would help him if he discovered something that shouldn't be done.
Okay. Now,
I don't want to expose his gift. I sort of want that to leave that to the listeners to purchase the book and decide for themselves, to see for themselves.
Understood, Mr. Johnson. That's quite understandable, sir. It's interesting because you're used to writing action-adventure books. Now, what led you to write children's books, James?
Well, I have only one explanation for my writing, and that's God. I didn't know I was going to be writing children's books. I didn't feel I had a skill or knowledge or even a desire to write children's books. But I was sitting by my Christmas tree on December it was Christmas of 2023, year before last, and I was just looking at the gifts under the tree, waiting for my wife to wake up, and I was going to present her with her gifts, and it just came to me like it did the other books. It said, "I want you to start writing children's books," just out of nowhere, just a voice out of nowhere. I told her later on that day, and I said, I guess I'm supposed to start writing children's books now, something that I didn't think I had any knowledge of or would ever be doing.
Was it difficult to write a children's book, sir?
Actually, believe it or not, they're easier. What's harder, of course, is getting the books published because children's books come with illustrations, and you have to find somebody who can do those drawings for you.
Who was your collaborator when it comes to illustrations, James?
Well, I had one. I've been through so many publishers that, the one I had during that time, which was Writer Cosmos, they found an illustrator for me for book one. I'm working on book two, and so now I have another illustrator. So I guess that's the hard part. I actually write. I have 15 of those Dooley Dooley series planned, and I've written about half of them. So they're not difficult to write. They're just difficult to put together.
Okay. When it comes to Dooley Dooley, did you get any inspiration from your own children or grandchildren? I mean, do you have grandchildren, James?
I do have grandchildren. I guess I started using that word when I would tell my wife she was watching sort of like I would call them those romance kind of milquetoast type of shows of comedies and movies that I really didn't watch because I'm more of an action adventure type person. So I wound up calling them Dooley Dooley. You're watching Dooley Dooley now, and that sort of just came out of nowhere. and when I started writing books, of course, it came to me as being his name or his nickname.
Okay. James, what led you to become a novelist, and why did you choose action-adventure? How did that come about, James?
Again, the only way I can explain it is God. God, it was about maybe the late 90s, early 2000s, when I was contemplating. I'm a federal worker. I work for the government, civil service worker, and I was at that time I was contemplating changing jobs because the job I really wanted, the promotion I really wanted, it wasn't happening for me, and I sort of started feeling like that my work was overlooked. And I started at that time starting to look around. And one day I was just laying on my bed and thinking. And this voice just come to me out of nowhere. It said, "Write a book." I mean, my eyes open. You know, I was the only one in the house, and I'm thinking, where did that come from? And I just thought about it, meditated on it for several weeks, and I said, I guess God wants me to write a book. You know, and what do I write? And I started thinking, the only thing I know about is action adventure type books. I like the James Bond type of movies and things like that. So I'll write a movie. I'll write a book according to the type of movies that I like. Okay. So I wound up writing my first novel back then, and then it just sort of started. And I realized, in the Bible, in Jeremiah 29:11, God says, "I know the thoughts I have for you." And so I realized then, when I got into writing those books, I was so into them, so much into developing the plots and the characters, that I just forgot about working toward getting another job. And next thing I know, I got the promotion that I wanted for the job that I really loved and retired from. And I realized that God had that job for me even before I was born, and I was trying to take myself away from it. So He gave me something to do as a distraction, because when I started writing books, I was like, that was all I could think about at night, and when I'm off, and putting these stories together and developing this character and the twists and the turns and the plots and then hiding who done it until the end. And then when I got that job, then I realized, okay, that was God speaking to me, and God put a talent in me. I didn't realize until I got into my 40s that He had put in me. And so, when people started reading my books, they were like, "These are really good books." So, at the time, though, I didn't really get published. I sort of just thought God was just sort of giving me that distraction, and so I didn't really get published until relatively recently. But that's my I have a one-word answer to when people ask me what started me to writing. I said it was God. That's the only way I can explain it.
When you were writing your novels, how autobiographical are they? How much of your own personal life did you inject into your fictional characters, James?
I really don't feel like I put a lot of myself into them. I know in my book, An American Abduction, a lot of the beginning, a lot of what I describe about the background of the two main characters, maybe a little bit of how I see things, or how I want to see things, or we want people to see things. But I don't feel like a lot of it is me. I feel like a lot of it is. I've always felt like I had a strong imagination, and I feel like I can imagine things that are not so much me, but other things, other worlds, other people. So if I had to put a percentage to it, it would be very low, maybe like 10%.
Okay. Now, while looking up your bio, James, you mentioned that you put your writing career on hold for 20 years. Why?
Well, I didn't get published at the time, and I sort of realized that it was, I sort of felt that it was God getting me through that period in my career, and so I just thought at the time when I couldn't get published that it was just that's what it was for, just for helping me to get to the job that I really wanted and loved, and so I didn't feel like writing anymore. I just sitting down at a keyboard and typing it out, thinking about it is one thing, but then when you got to put pen to paper and go through all of that and the spelling and all of that, it's not as fun. So I wasn't motivated anymore to write anymore. until God spoke to me again.
Okay. James, please tell our listeners about your book, An American Abduction. What's that all about, James?
Well, this is sort of the rest of the story. After I retired in 2019, and my goals or my thoughts, my plans when I retired was to travel, of course, be involved in my church, and play golf. Books were nowhere. Writing books was nowhere in my thinking. I put my work on in like the back drawer, and wasn't thinking about that anymore. I had incorporated back then, but I let my business sort of go away. I just had no plans in my in my future to write anymore. And then in 2020, during the COVID years, this voice came to me again, a voice that was familiar at this time by now. It said, "I want you to write a book about abduction." Mm. And I said, I recognize that thought. I went through this before, but why would God want me to write a book about abduction? So this was 2020, and so I banded that in my head for almost a year that this can't be God this time, and I don't want to write. I want to play golf. I want to travel. I really don't want to write anymore. But it just kept getting stronger and stronger, and after a while, I started thinking, well, what kind of abductions do I do? What's the story going to be about? God doesn't tell you everything. He'll give you, one or two moves, and then then he lets you start taking steps. And so I started putting it in my head that okay, I'm going to have abductions, and then I'm going to have alien abductions. I'm going to have kidnapping abductions. I'm going to throw a lot into this book, because God wants me to write it, and maybe he wants me to go back and publish those other three that I wrote back in the late 90s. So I finally, again, I thought about what I like. I like espionage. I like thriller. I like mysteries. I like keeping people suspended until the end. So I was thinking about all of that. I said, I'm going to have alien abductions in it and everything. So, I threw a lot into the book. And that's what I came out with, an American abduction.
Okay. Now, James, do your earlier works that you wrote in the 90s, do they also delve into the UFO phenomenon, or no?
No, not really. I'm more of a mystery writer, action adventure. But when I published this book and I got it published and people read it, they gravitated to the UFO sci-fi part of the book. It won an award in that category in science fiction as well as other categories. But I don't feel that's me. I won't rule anything out for the future. But UFOs and things like that I'm more of the James Bond type, the Jason Statham, the real life characters. I'm more of that, and I can think of more twists and turns. I had a friend who really enjoyed the book. He said, I hope you write more science fiction books. But unless God tells me, I'm going to stay in the action, adventure, real life kind of mysteries. I've actually written 7 more books since I wrote that one. Okay. I thought that God only wanted me to write one, and when I finished that one, and I exhaled and said, okay, God, I got this book. Help me get it published and all of that. Okay. And it wasn't long before he told me, I want you to write another one. So now I'm writing again. I'm a writer.
Okay. James, I ask this question very respectfully. Have you ever seen a UFO personally?
Well, when you say UFO, you're saying an unidentified flying object, and I've seen, on 3 occasions, I've seen objects in the sky that I couldn't identify. Okay. I don't relate the book to my incidences that much. Actually, one of them occurred year before last, after I had written the book. But yeah, I've had 3 instances where I've seen objects in the sky that I didn't know what they were.
Okay. James, if Hollywood ever made a movie about an American abduction, what actors and actresses would you want to play the roles of the main characters in the book?
Well, one character in the book, she's the instructor for the two main characters. She becomes their teacher, and she's an African American, very smart instructor. And I could see Viola Davis playing that part, or Cecily Tyson, maybe even Octavia Spencer.
Okay. How about the male heroes, or male hero or heroes?
The two male, Matt and Tangy, they're the ones who this book is all about. They're the main characters, the two scientists who are abducted. Well, they're not abducted at first. They're recruited to work in this secret lab, underground government facility in Carlsbad, New Mexico, down in the ground, but by the caverns. And Matt and Tangy, they're two people who graduated with all kinds of honors from Yale, and they have all that. The CIA has been tracking them throughout their scholastic careers, and recruit them to work in this government facility to develop a mind control program.
Ooh.
And Matt and Tangy doesn't know, but part of the CIA people who run the facility. One of them is a Russian spy, and the other is a Colombian drug kingpin. So they want the information that Tangy and Matt are developing for the benefit of their own countries, to further their interests. At the same time, there's aliens that know about the plant, so they abduct Matt and Tangy to plant a secret spy chip in one of them, so that they can find out what's going on in the facility. So there's all kinds of things going on in that book. But Matt, I can see somebody like Will Poulter, Timothy Chalamet, or younger Brad Pitt playing him. Tangy, they're both going to be very attractive people. Tangy would be somebody like, I think her name is Chilo Grace Moretz, Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney, somebody like that, Florence Pugh.
Okay. James, let's talk about yourself. Where were you born and raised?
I was born 30 miles north of here in Berry, Alabama. I live in Tuscaloosa, about 30 miles south of Berry. And that's where I went to high school. I graduated from the University of Alabama, but I also spent some time in the Air Force. That's about me. I had been married nearly 42 years. My wife passed away last year.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. What did you do in the Air Force? Were you a pilot, mechanic? What did you do?
I was a chemical engineer. You know, I always tell people when we talk about the military, I say I was an engineer in service. But when I graduated, and Uncle Sam sent me to school, I became an accountant. And that's how I got my job. I guess that's another way God led me to have the type of degree that was desired by the agency that I work for.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of curious. You said when you work for the federal government. I got to let you in on a secret, James. I'm a federal government employee, too. I work for the National Archives.
Okay.
What agency do you work for?
I work for the agency that regulated credit unions, National Credit Union Administration.
Okay.
I was a regulator, and then I became more like a counselor to credit unions, and that was the job that I had been wanting, and I became more like a consultant for credit unions. Instead of going in and finding the problem, I would go in and help them solve the problems.
Okay. James, whenever I interview an author, I always love to ask the standard question. Who were your favorite authors when you were growing up? And of those favorite authors, did any of them light the spark inside you to become a writer or else influence your writing style?
You know, I can't say I was a big reader. That's why it was surprising that I became a writer. But, you know, when people read my books back in the 90s, they made the comment that I write like John Grisham. And I feel like I have a little bit of his style, but Tom Clancy, you know, with his type of books, they're the type of books that I write. Dan Brown, you know, mysteries and you know, just conspiracies and things like that. I love that kind of stuff, and it's all throughout my other books.
Now, I know Clancy always loved to get into technologies. He liked to break down how weaponry, how weapons worked, and how they could be utilized. You do the same thing, James, with your novels?
Well, I do. I do enough to get by. You know, I'm not an expert in anything. One of my friend readers read my book, and he said, "Boy, you had to do a lot of research for it." I said, "I just learned the basics. I didn't get deep into anything like." In American Abduction, there's a Russian submarine, and the Russian submarine launches a cruise missile, and I just go through some gyrations in my head of how that missile is launched and such. But I don't delve into it, you know, maybe not like those writers do.
Okay. James, please tell our listeners, where can readers find your books?
Well, my books, American Abduction and Dooley Dooley Book 1, they are available on Amazon, as well as Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and other platforms. And you can get a hard copy, paperback, and it's available in audiobook.
Okay. How about your earlier works, James? Where can they be found? Because when I looked up in Amazon, I didn't see your earlier works. Where can they be found?
Yeah, they're not published yet. I'm working on bestseller. That's the title of one of my books. I'm working on publishing it as my next book, as my next novel, and then Dooley Dooley Book 2. I'm working with my illustrator on getting that one done. So they'll be my next two projects.
Do you have a website? Oh, go ahead. Say it. Sorry, Jake. Go ahead.
I was just going to say both of them should be done by the end of this year.
Okay. James, do you have a website? And if so, please tell our listeners, what's your web address?
My web address is jjsnovels.com.
Okay.
jjsnovels.com.
Okay.
You'll find a little bit more about me, something about my future books, as well as the actress Mariel Hemingway. When I was working with my publisher that published An American Abduction, she does the foreword for my book, and it's also her audio promotion of that book is on my website as well.
I know, very impressive. I mean, Mariel Hemingway. James, now you mentioned you got please tell our listeners again, what's your next book project and when can we expect its release? You said at the end of the year. Which book are we talking? Another Dooley Dooley book or another novel? What are we expecting?
Yeah, both. A Dooley Dooley Book 2. In Book 2, I'll just tell you, he goes to his grandmother with his new gift to ask her, because he trusts her. And he goes to his grandmother to ask her how does he use his newfound gift, his newfound power. So that's Book 2. But bestseller is about an aging author who wants to write one more best-selling book, and he writes true story. He writes true life events. Him and his agent are set up to write one more book before he retires that hopefully will be his bestseller. And the book is going to be about him interviewing a former FBI agent who infiltrates the Ku Klux Klan to find out why another FBI agent was killed. But at the same time, he's sort of there's another guy who knows that he's writing that sort of steps in the picture and tells the Marion, that's his name, that he wants to write a book about his brother who's in the mafia and trying to get out. So that book, as well as all my books, have more than one thing going on at the same time.
James, I want to thank you so much for appearing on my show, and I wish you the best of luck in your future writing endeavors, and I can't wait to have you on the show again, okay?
Oh, thank you. I look forward to it.
You take care, okay?
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for my next show where I'll be interviewing author Kristen Sikorsky. Thank you and good night.